We're here at CTIA Wireless 2008, where all the talk is around open access and flat rate pricing, the 700 megahertz auction and femtocells. But as always, most of the talk is around 4G, which is ready to go for a wild ride.
The first commercial deployments of LTE we think will happen in the early 2010 timeframe. Our products are slated to become available in the market in commercial form factor towards the end of next year, which is end of 2009.
We will see deployments of the first systems during the course of 2009, and then for commercial introduction we will see how the ecosystem will develop.
Lab trials are taking place as we speak. Right. So the lab trials are initiated. Towards the end of this year, early next year, field trials will take place. And then in the middle of next year, it will start to look at commercial gear and commercial trials.
So there's been a lot of talk here at the show about LTE, mobile WiMAX and 4G. These are really interesting technologies. Before we get to that, I think it's really interesting to look at where we've come in 3G data and to realize actually that in 2007 we pretty much crossed a threshold in terms of usage, pricing and services. So we've seen data usage grow anywhere between 4- and 8-fold in terms of traffic volume. We've seen pricing really come down, probably over 300% in some markets. And usage, we're seeing a vast range of services, applications, and it's really this that provides the platform for innovation that's going to support the introduction of 4G in later years.
Femtocells have garnered a lot more interest this year at CTIA Wireless than many would have expected. But the real issue is how the major carriers will deploy the technology in the U.S., except, of course, for Sprint.
In America, it's not so clear what's going on with the femtocell. These many base stations are really popular with Sprint, which is looking to use them to provide in-home coverage with its WiMAX deployment, because the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum they use doesn't penetrate buildings very well. But with the other large operators, Verizon and AT&T, because they just won a massive chunk of 700 megahertz spectrum, which has a much better in-building penetration, we could see that they possibly call on the idea of femtocells if they were ever looking at them that hard to begin with.
I think femtocells, for me, is a short-term need at this point in time. I think it has a place in our strategy, and I'm not suggesting it won't have a place in the future, but I think we have to really understand the new technology.
I think that in femtocells have transformed the way that networks are going to be built and the way that devices are going to be used forever, right? So I think that networks of the future will be hybrid networks, macro overlay with a femtocell, giving you the coverage and the capacity that you need wherever it is. So effectively, you know, whether it's LTE, whether it's WiMAX, whether it's in 700 megahertz, I think femtocells will be an important part of those deployments as well, and they'll be built with femtocells from the get-go.
Flat rate pricing and open access. Two topics that sure sound good, but what's driving this, and is it in the best interest of mobile operators?
We've been talking a lot about open. Open's like the new black. It's the new fashionable thing to be talking about. Everyone wants to be open. And we work very closely with the carriers, and I think that we're going to see a while for open to actually take off in the U.S. because as soon as you do truly open it up, the carriers start to lose a little bit of control of what's exactly on their deck.
Open access is more of a policy issue that can have many different definitions. So one of the things that may result from Verizon Wireless's Open Development Initiative is it really defines what the consumers, what the enterprise customers, what the development community all think and mean about this policy issue of open access.
Some of the research we've done at Heavy Reading, we've a group of operators that we've been tracking for some time. We've seen price declines of over 300% in 2007, and price per megabyte for some operators is now right down to 1 cent, and even 0.5 cents are pretty much one of the lowest prices we've seen. One thing to think about flat rate, though, it does not mean unlimited. You know, it's not like you can just get a service and use it as much as you like. And that's kind of something that basically people, the industry and the consumers are going to have to come to terms with. You're going to have data caps, rate limits, fair use conditions, and actually as we go forward it's going to get more and more sophisticated. So perhaps carriers are going to start getting smarter in how they bundle, for example, access to video streaming or peer-to-peer or file download browsing.
So flat rate pricing is essential for mobile broadband for certain device types. So a laptop computer in which you don't think twice about downloading a PowerPoint file, flat rate pricing is extremely important. But then there are other devices where the value addition can be immense. For example, a navigation service on top of an existing small handy mobile phone that you carry always with you. Those premium services can be priced differently.
I'm here with Dan Jones and Phil Harvey of Unstrung and Light Reading. We're in Nokia's Mobile Cafe in the Sky. I guess you guys are kind of wondering why I brought you here.
Well, I was getting eyes.
Yeah, I'm assuming it wasn't a health and safety lecture.
Well, since we're up here, we might as well have a quick discussion. We came to this show hoping or expecting to see a lot of talk about the 700 megahertz auction and the outcome of that, but nobody's been able to talk to us. You guys aren't under any kind of restrictions, are you?
No, absolutely not. It's kind of weird too because it's been the elephant in the room in this conference, and none of the carriers can talk about it yet, what they're doing yet. But from all the folks we've been talking to, it really does seem like there's a consensus that Verizon's really once again placed the right bet at the right time, similar to the way they did with fiber to the home. They've really got some great spectrum, and we'll be exciting to see what they do with it.
By the same token, though, we've been talking to Sprint and a lot of other people, and it's clear that it isn't easy being 4G. Moving to a whole new network takes a lot of work, and when they're doing this, it basically, there's backhaul problems, there's problems installing this stuff, and there's no reason to assume that LTE or any other 4G technology will have it any easier. So I wouldn't necessarily assume that Verizon will be free of any kind of teething problems that you might think they might not face.
You'd think at this altitude he'd be more positive.
Everybody wants to know, since you guys have been in Vegas all week, have you been this high all week?
Not all week, but I'm certainly enjoying it now.
Right.